Welcome to your Grade 8 Mathematics revision. Over the next 2 days of content, we are going to build your fluency and application skills across sequences, ratios, probability, transformations, and more. Our goal is to move from quick recall to solving exam-style problems with confidence. Let's begin Day 1, Fluency Foundation. Day 1 focuses on quick recall and clear methods. Let's start with sequences. Take a look at this sequence. Notice how the values change as we move from one term to the next. 5 to 9 is plus 4. 9 to 13 is plus 4. There is a constant difference of positive 4. To find the nth term, we start with this common difference. Since it increases by 4 times, the rule must involve 4 times n. If n equals 1, 4 times 1 is 4, but the value is 5. We need to add 1 to get from 4 to our first term of 5. Let's check. For m equals 2, 4 times 2 plus 1 is 9. It works. Now we substitute n equals 10 into our formula. We set our formula equal to 101 and solve for n. Subtract 1 from both sides to get 4n equals 100. Dividing by 4, we find n equals 25. Since 25 is a whole number, 101 is the 25th term. Next, we move to ratios. Imagine a class where for every 4 boys there are 7 girls. We know there are 44 students in total. Think of the ratio as parts of a whole. By adding the components of the ratio, we find there are 11 equal parts making up the whole group. To find out how many students are in one part, we divide the total number of students by the total parts. So, each part represents 4 students. Since boys make up 4 parts of the ratio, there are 16 boys in the class. Now let's look at probability. We have a fair spinner with 4 equal sections, W, X, Y, and Z, and we are tossing a fair coin at the same time. Part A. Find the probability of landing on W or X. Since there are 4 equal sections, and 2 of them are W or X, the probability is 2 out of 4. Part B. Find the probability of getting a head. A fair coin has 2 sides, heads and tails. The chance of getting a head is simply 1 out of 2. Part C. Find the probability of landing on W or X and getting a head. When we want 2 independent things to happen together, we multiply their individual probabilities. Finally, Part D. Explain why these are independent events. The events are independent because the result of the spinner does not change the result of the coin toss. Let's look at how we can move shapes on a coordinate grid. We have triangle PQR. A translation moves every point by the same amount. The top number in our vector, 1, tells us to move right by 1 unit. The bottom number, -2, tells us to move down by 2 units. Adding the vector to each coordinate gives us our new points. These are our new coordinates. Notice how the shape remains exactly the same size and orientation. It has simply slid across the grid. This is a rigid transformation. It's like sliding a tile across a floor. The shape itself doesn't change, just its position. Let's analyze some data using a back-to-back stem and leaf diagram. This allows us to compare 2 classes at once. The stem represents the tens digit, and the leaves represent the units. To find the mean, we must add all the individual scores for Class A and divide by the number of students. Here are all the scores for Class A. The sum of these 19 scores is 602. The mean score for Class A is approximately 31.7. The median is the middle value. Class B has 19 scores as well. The middle position is the 10th value. Counting from the smallest, 7, 8, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 26, 27, 27, the 10th value is 27. The mode is the most frequent score. Looking at Class A, we see several leaves repeat, but none within the same stem except for the 30s and 40s. Wait, checking the list, no score repeats more than once. Therefore, there is no mode. The range is the difference between the highest and lowest score. Highest is 41, lowest is 7. 41 minus 7 equals 34. The range of scores for Class B is 34. Finally, for Day 1, let's look at 3D shapes. We have a rectangular prism that is cut in half diagonally to create 2 triangular prisms. The dimensions are a length of 20 centimeters, a width of 15 centimeters, and a height of 8 centimeters. First, find the volume of the full rectangular prism. Volume equals length times width times height. So, 15 times 8 times 20 equals 2400 cc's. Since the prism is cut exactly in half to form the triangular prisms, we divide by 2. The volume of each prism is 1200 cubic centimeters. Next, to find the surface area, we add the area of all 5 faces, 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. First, the triangular faces. Area equals 0.5 times base times height. 0.5 times 15 times 8 is 60. Since there are 2, that's 120 square centimeters. Now for the 3 rectangular faces. We need the slant length using Pythagoras' theorem. The rectangles are 15 by 20, 8 by 20, and 17 by 20. Adding them all up, 120 plus 300 plus 160 plus 340 equals 920. The surface area is 920 square centimeters. That concludes day 1. You've built a strong foundation. Let's step it up with day 2. Welcome to day 2. Today we apply our methods to more complex exam-style situations. Let's sharpen those skills. Question 1. We have a solid shape made of a rectangular prism with a triangular prism on top. The rectangular base is 4 centimeters by 5 centimeters with a height of 8.5 centimeters. The total height is 11 centimeters. Part A. Calculate the height of the triangular prism. The total height is 11 and the rectangular part is 8.5. So, the triangle's height is 2.5 centimeters. Part B. Calculate the volume of the rectangular prism. Volume equals length times width times height. Multiplying 5 by 4 by 8.5 gives us 170. Part C. Calculate the volume of the triangular prism. This is the area of the triangle times the length. The area of the triangular face is half times 4 times 2.5, which is 5. Multiplying the area of 5 by the length of 5, the top part has a volume of 25. Part D. Find the total volume. We simply add the two parts together. 170 plus 25 is 195. The total volume is 195 cubic centimeters. Let's look at another stem and leaf diagram. Notice that one of our stems is missing. It's labeled as X. Part A. Explain why the value of X must be 7. In a stem and leaf diagram, the stems must follow a logical, consecutive numerical order. Since it sits between 6 and 8, X must be 7 to maintain the sequence of tens. It follows the numerical sequence 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Part B. Write down the median score for Class A. First, we count the number of students in Class A. 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 equals 14 students. For 14 values, the median is between the 7th and 8th value. The values are 57, 58, 59, 62, 63, 63, 64, 72, 73, and so on. The 7th value is 64 and the 8th is 72. The median is the average of 64 and 72, which is 68. The median score is 68. Part C. Find the range of scores for Class B. Range is the highest score minus the lowest score. The highest score is 94. And the lowest is 57. 94 minus 57 equals 37. The range for Class B is 37. Now let's look at points on a line. We have a horizontal line segment connecting E and F. Part A. Show that the distance from E to F is 4 units. Since the y coordinates are the same, we only need to find the difference between the x coordinates. The length is exactly 4 units. Part B. Calculate the total length of EG. We are told that F is 1/3 of the way along the line segment E. This means the distance from E to F is 1/3 of the total distance. Substituting our value, 4 equals 1/3 times EG. Therefore, EG equals 4 times 3, which is 12. The total length of the line, EG, is 12 units. Part C. Find the coordinates of point G. Since the line is horizontal, the y-coordinate for G will stay the same as E and F, which is 5. To find the x-coordinate, we start at E and move 12 units to the right. So, the coordinates of point G are 13, 5. Now we have a more advanced probability question. We have 8 tiles in a bag. Let's look at how events can be connected. Event N is the letter being in the word NECK. We look at our 8 tiles and pick out the ones that appear in that word. All 4 of these letters are in our bag. Event L is the letter being in the word LAND. Checking our tiles again. These 4 letters satisfy event L. This is the tricky part. We are told that if n happens, the probability of L is 1/4, but if n does not happen, the probability of L changes to 3/4. Because the probability of L depends on whether n happened or not, these are called dependent events. Question 5. Inverse proportion. Area equals 100 square centimeters. Let's explore the relationship between length and width when the area is fixed. This is a classic case of inverse proportion. Part A. Write an expression for width W in terms of L. We know that length times width equals area. To isolate W, we divide both sides by L. Part B. If the new length is 3L, write the new width. We substitute 3L into our formula for the length. Part C. Compare the original width with the new width. Notice the difference. The original width was 100 over L. The new width is that same value divided by 3. The new width is 1/3 of the original width. Part D. State what happens when length is multiplied by 3. When we multiply one variable by a factor, the other must be divided by that same factor to keep the product constant. The width is divided by 3. This is the heart of inverse proportion. As one goes up, the other goes down. To finish day 2, we return to sequences, but this time looking at visual patterns and data. The sequence is increasing by 4 each time. 15 plus 4 is 19. 19 plus 4 is 23. The next two terms are 19 and 23. Just like in day 1, we use the common difference of 4 times n. If n equals 1, 4 times 1 is 4. We need to subtract 1 to get our first term, 3. Substitute n equals 10 into our new rule. 4 times 10 minus 1 is 39. The 10th term is 39. The first 5 terms are 3, 7, 11, 15 and 19. The sum is 55. 55 divided by 5 is 11. The mean is 11. Notice it's the middle term for an arithmetic sequence. The first 6 terms end with 23. The range is 23 minus 3, which is 20. Excellent work. You've completed the first 2 days of your revision. You've mastered everything from 3D shapes to complex probability. Keep this momentum going for day 3.